Hello, my name is Matt Villegas. So continuing on with part 5 of the video tutorial series for how to stream using OBS, Open Broadcaster Software, and stream over to Facebook Live. So pretty big thing, as you saw with all my previous videos. You should, by this point, have your scene set up. I went through the demo in the previous video and for how to set up these sources and get the image that you see here that I've been going back and forth. It's pretty much the same thing, right? So going to the article that's listed in the description, and here I can walk through with you step by step these different terms and what is important. So the main thing is you have here the video and the audio, so I'm just going through that pretty much for this video. So the different settings you have, basically what's going on. I'm going to go here in OBS into the preferences so you can see there's these different tabs. Shouldn't be too overwhelming. Each thing is pretty well laid out for the most part. So we're going to focus mostly on the video and audio, but a little bit with the output as well, because you need to make sure your stream meets all the criteria in order to stream over to Facebook Live. So the first thing you should notice, like I mentioned before, your resolution for the video should be 720p, which means 1280 pixels wide. Okay, 1280 wide by 720 tall. So we should have that set up already. And then for frames per second, interval of 1 every 2 seconds. Really, it's just this number, 30 frames per second. So let me show that here under video. So it should default to this, as you saw before with the bottom two. If you leave these defaults, you should be okay. Usually with video, and the high end is 60 FPS because that's how many frames per second the human eye is capable of seeing. But for streaming purposes and streaming to Facebook Live, you want to use 30. So the defaults should do you good. The only thing, as I mentioned previously, you want to change your canvas and output scaled resolution to 1280 by 720. And the bit rate. So 4,000 kilobits per second. This is how much data overall is being sent to those Facebook Live servers. So in my case, with the output for the video bit rate, I'm using 2500, and if you saw on my personal Facebook page what that looks like, it looks fine. And they're just stating here in the article that if you did want a little bit higher end, the max would be 4,000. And then rate control, here it says CBR. You might have this option on PC. CBR stands for constant bit rate. So you want constant as opposed to the other option. If it were here, I don't see it, but the other option would be VBR, which is variable bit rate. So if you do, for whatever reason, default to that, let me see if there's anything under advanced here. Okay, so under advanced, now you see it. I would, in your purposes, stick to simple, but you could see here under the rate control, there's this option CBR. So you want to make sure it's that and not any of the other choices. So the other one I mentioned was VBR. I'm not too well aware of what the other ones do, but I obviously wouldn't mess around with that. Okay, so that should take care of the video. And then just a quick note, if you do go on Facebook Live, don't go longer than 4 hours. I salute you if you manage to stream for that long, but that's your max, just so you know. Okay? Moving on to the audio. So we have our video set up here. I'm going to switch this back to simple and not play around with that. Okay? Really quick before I branch off to audio, for output, I actually like recording to my hard drive. You can see here where it's going and the quality and the format. In my case, I just prefer using MP4. I believe the default is FLV. I just like MP4 because it's a simple file format that's pretty compatible with a lot of devices, Mac or PC and what have you, and it does an okay job with compressing the video files while maintaining quality. So these are just the settings I use for recording the stream. So moving on to the audio. Before clicking on that tab, you want to make sure here the bit rate, so how much data is being sent for the audio track to the Facebook Live servers, should be 128, and you can see here 128 kilobits per second. So it could be either mono or stereo, but 128 is the magic number there, and the sample rate 44.1, which is not the default. So I'll show that. Here you could see I changed it to that. It might be the default. Let me backtrack there. I can't remember if it is or not because I messed around with all these settings. But you just want to make sure it's not 48 kilohertz. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stream to Facebook Live because, boohoo. All right, so make sure for the video and the audio, they match up here with the article about those options. So just scrolling down here to make sure I've covered all my bases. So in the next video, you'll see here discussing about the stream key and actually streaming now that you have all these settings like you see here. So make sure the video bitrate, the max is 4000. The audio bitrate, you want to make sure that's 128 and 44.1 kilohertz. The video feed, 1280 by 720 max for Facebook Live, 30 FPS. So those are those big values that you need. And then in the next video, we'll move on to the stream. Okay, and that should cover it. If you have any questions up to this point, hopefully I didn't lose you, and see you in the next video. So feel free to comment and message me about any issues you're having. First, I would check the forums for OBS for Open Broadcaster software because I'm sure there's a lot of people who've had the same questions you did. Okay, so see you in the next one.